I'm so excited to be here with all of you tonight, and I just want to say thank you. I'm so excited about the start of this year and of getting to know each and every one of you over the course of these coming months. I've been thinking a lot about this chapel talk. In fact, I have been thinking about it on and off since last fall when I was named Pomfret's next head of school. I've had to do a lot of public speaking throughout my time working in schools, primarily in admissions. But fun fact, this is actually my first time giving a chapel talk. Speaking about school community I love and believe in is easy, but getting up in front of people and coming out with something personal and meaningful to say, particularly when it's your first official time doing so to your new school community, carries a bit of pressure with it. At my last school, much like here at Pomfret, our seniors gave a version of our chapel talks, which we called senior speeches. One of the very first students to do so last year used the following quote, which stuck with me, from the comedian Jerry Seinfeld. And it goes, "According to most studies, people's number one fear is public speaking. Number two is death." Death is number two. Did that sound right? This means that the average person, if you go to a funeral, you're better off in the casket than delivering the eulogy. Seniors, did this align with how you're feeling about your chapel talks this year? Now, I wouldn't go so far as to say that I fear public speaking over death, but this evening's talk has occupied a good amount of my thoughts, especially in recent weeks. Just ask Mr. Daly. However, in combing the internet looking for the exact wording of Seinfeld's quote, I came across another piece of wisdom that I used to help guide my thinking about tonight's speech. And this one is from US President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Be sincere, be brief, be seated. Everyone here at Pomfret has a story, a journey in their lives that has had twists and turns and ultimately brought them to this chapel today. I spoke briefly about this idea when I came to Pomfret last fall during my interview about the odds that on a planet of 8.2 billion people, that the approximately 400 to 425 of us would find ourselves here in this place at this moment. And the synchronicity of that is staggering to think about. And now that we are here, we have the opportunity to write this next chapter for Pomfret School. What do we value as a community? What do we want our school to be known for? How do we strive to make this a place where everyone's stories can be heard? That members of this community will feel comfortable sharing and being themselves and showing up as who they are. It's in this spirit that I'm telling parts of my story in the hope that others will tell theirs. So as some of you know, I grew up on the other side of Connecticut, about 2 hours north of New York City, in a small town called Wassaic, New York, which is only about a 15-minute drive away from Milver School, our competitors in the battle for Route 44. As I mentioned last fall when I spoke in chapel during my interview, I did not go to a school like Pomfret. Socioeconomically, it would not have been a possibility for my family. My mom was a teacher in my local public school, which I attended. I was lucky enough to have parents and a few teachers who believed in me and encouraged me, much like the students here at Pomfret have in so many of our amazing faculty and staff members. I am the oldest of 4 girls, and we were all born within a period of 3 years, so my parents had their hands full when we were small. I learned how to read at an early age, and I loved books. My mom tells stories of me carrying stacks of books around the house and our yard and sitting on them while they ate so that none of my little sisters could take them away from me. These are big sister problems. Despite love to read, I was not a good student when I was younger. Once homework and take-home assignments came on the scene, I struggled with organization and turning things in. I was also navigating my parents' divorce, which had me rudderless for a few years. Earlier this summer, when we were preparing for our move from Cleveland to Pomfret and going through boxes, I came across one of my middle school report cards, and it was not pretty. Comments on that report card included lack of effort, miracle work, strive to improve, and unprepared for class. I don't think that as an eighth grader, I would have been a good candidate for admission here at Pomfret, even if finances hadn't been a factor. It actually wasn't until the end of my ninth grade year in high school that I re-engaged with my schoolwork and was able to pull the various pieces together. Actually, and it was a bit of a fluke. Just before my spring final exams, I came down with strep throat and had to stay home for a day or two. I cleaned out my locker and had all of my papers and books and materials at home with me. And while I was feeling sick, I wasn't so sick to work. So I started organizing all of those papers and reading through them, which ultimately led to me studying for my exams. And when I went back to school, I actually did really well on those exams. After receiving my grades at the end of the year and seeing the improvement that had occurred just from studying, it flipped a switch for me in regards to my learning. Success ultimately fuels success. And I threw myself into my high school experience in a new way in terms of academics, athletics, arts, student government, mock trial, you named it. I was that kid, got involved. And ultimately, that work paid off for me. I was accepted to Wellesley College, just outside of Boston, and received an extremely generous financial aid award. I wouldn't have been able to attend without it. It was there that I was exposed to ideas and people that opened up my view of the world and allowed me to see incredible possibilities for myself as I stretched and grew. I loved my time there, and it was transformational. Even so, in my early days, there were times when I felt like an imposter at Wellesley, as if the Board of Admission had made a mistake in admitting me. I'd written papers in high school, but not at the level of depth that was expected of me in a college classroom. The pace of classes was fast, my classes were brilliant in discussions, and I wasn't sure I was up to it. I was up to keeping up. I also tried to figure out time management as I adjusted to living away from home for the first time, and it took me over a year to get my bearings. But once again, I did it by relearning what I needed to do to find success in my new setting. I began to thrive. Outside of the classroom, I played soccer in my first year. I was an RA. And I had the opportunity to sit on the Board of Admissions as a student application reader. I loved being able to open the doors of education wide to other students who were looking for a similar experience. And after college, I worked as a legal assistant in a corporate law firm for a year in New York City, which I learned quickly was definitely not my heart's calling. Ultimately, it led me back to my love of education and admissions working at a girls' boarding school in Monterey, California called Santa Catalina. I loved being part of a boarding school community, both in terms of opening the doors to students and helping to build Catalina's community, as well as the opportunity to have impact on the lives of students. Much of my time in schools has been spent in the work of intentionally creating communities. I don't think anything is more essential to building a culture than who is part of a school, both for students and for adults. In the case of a boarding school like Pomfret, that entails bringing students from together around the country and across the world from incredibly different backgrounds and giving them the gift of living and learning together. I have an unshakable faith and belief in the power of education, as well as the role that it plays in socioeconomic mobility in our country. I have loved being part of school communities that center the experiences of students, with adults who are ambitious and excited to think critically about the work they do together. I have sought out schools where people are kind. I don't enjoy schools that feel stuffy or exclusionary. Let me tell you a bit about why I wanted to come to Pomfret. Now, I still love to read, although I no longer feel the need to sit on my boats to keep away from people. I'm happy about no. Other things that are important to know about me include that I am married to Mr. Daly, who is one of the most amazing human beings. I am the mother of 3 children and 2 daughters that I hope you will come to know. I love to sing. Someday I want to learn how to knit and how to play the mandolin that I bought during COVID. I am on Team Conrad. Perhaps these topics will come up in future remarks in this chapel. I tell you these things about me because I think it's important to know that, one, everyone in this chapel has their own stories that come from their past experiences, where they are from, those that stem from their cultural, racial, religious, gender identity, socioeconomic, geographic backgrounds. Not all of these aspects of who we are can be seen just by looking at us, but they shape us and how we engage in the world. There is incredible beauty and power in that diversity of perspectives if we open ourselves up to receiving it. 2, everyone has things they are good at and things that they are figuring out and need to work on. I am a huge believer in the idea of asset, the power of yet, as it, I don't know how to, or I can't do that yet. You are who you are, and what you can do or not do in this moment in time is not how things will always be. In 8th grade, I was not ready or able to put the pieces together for myself as a student. A year later, I was, which in turn helped me to be ready for the next challenges that came my way, to build on my strengths and imagine and create my path forward. Ultimately, it's led me here at Pomfret School, for which I am immensely proud and grateful. And 3, there are resources here to help you on your way. Other students and faculty members sitting in this room. There will be moments you can dig it deep and do things you didn't believe you were capable of doing, like writing a chapel topper, trying out for a sport you've never played, or making a contribution in class, even if you're not sure of the answer. How does he create a culture in this community that allows for this? I believe it's through openness, vulnerability, and kindness, caring for one another here at Pomfret. That means buying into these ideas and showing up to support each other, being willing to engage in dialogue. I want Pomfret to be a place where people say hello to each other when they pass each other on the walkways. And if I say it hello to you and you don't say it back, I will probably say it again. A school where someone will stop and ask a peer if they're all right if they seem upset, regardless of whether they're a friend or someone you've spoken to before. Cheering on classmates in a musical performance, taking time to compliment someone on the goal they scored in the 3rd soccer game. Seniors, I am excited to hear from you over the course of this year about your Pomfret stories. You each have the opportunity to lead the way and model these characteristics, both here in this chapel and outside of it on our campus. I hope it will inspire others to do so as well. Thank you in advance for this gift to all of us. So having been sincere and somewhat Greek, now, as FDR advised, I will be seated.